Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So just stay ready. Look the part all the time. It sounds silly, but, look the part. Right. Care about presentation. And never stop studying your craft.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Just too much, and I fall into this hole with you. By the time I'm coming to, you do that little thing you do, and I lose my self-control with you. I'm not saying that I want to stop.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. You are listening to Making It with Terry Woolman, and that is Cy Smith that you just heard, who is our guest today. I want to let you know how much I appreciate you joining us on our show. I also want to thank everyone so much for your love and support during this past month while I've been recovering from hip replacement surgery. I deeply appreciate it, and I'm back stronger than ever, so thank you for that. If you missed our last interview, you can hear it and all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. So often I get asked questions about the creative process. So I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. And I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is Emmy-nominated songwriter-vocalist Cy Smith. Cy Smith is a Los Angeles-based singer, songwriter, and producer who helped cultivate the new soul scene in that city more than 10 years ago. Her catalog includes 5 studio albums with contributions from a who's who of producers. All 5 of her albums, including her brand new project, Sometimes a Rose Will Grow in Concrete, have been heralded by critics around the world for Smith's lyrical dexterity, her vocal whimsy, and her ability to spin a story like few others in soul music. Smith has provided supporting vocals for artists including Whitney Houston, Sheila E., Michelle Ndegeocello, Chaka Khan, Usher, and Macy Gray. She has also caught the ear of jazz and soul aficionados around the world as a featured guest with Grammy-winning trumpeter Chris Bodie. Please welcome my guest today, Cy Smith. Hi, Cy.
Hey. Hi. It's so good to be here with you today.
Yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to spending the hour with you, and I know that we've been trying to do this for a while, and I appreciate your your enthusiasm and patience in trying to figure out a time, because you travel more than most people that I know. You're constantly singing someplace.
Yeah, I'm on the road quite a lot, so I appreciate you being patient with me, because I'm always like, that seems to be a running refrain with me. Don't give up on me. Don't give up on me. I should write a song where I say
Don't give up on me? I'll write that one with you. Please
do. But it's really good to speak with you.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. So your IMDb bio reads, it's short and sweet, which is what I love about it. Cy Smith was born in New York City, New York, USA. She is known for her work on High Fidelity, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Ally McBeal. She has been married to Sean Carter Peterson since July 11th, 2010. Trademark, big heavy earrings, powerful soaring vocals, afro hair.
I don't know who wrote that, but yeah, I guess it's pretty succinct, because I haven't done as much as I'd like to do in film and television. But as soon as I get some more film and TV credits under my belt, maybe we can get that IMDb thing to be a little longer.
Well, I would still keep that intro because I think it's pretty great. It made me smile. Would you say that
good.
pretty much sums you up?
Big earrings and an afro?
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, have Mike will travel. That about sums me up. Yeah. That's kind of my life in a nutshell. And not to diminish, I guess, what I do or what we do as musicians. It always goes a bit deeper than what we actually are seen doing on stage. Right. But I guess that would sum me up until someone speaks to me a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can we talk about your early years and your family, your mom and dad? I know that your dad he's a singer and you come from a supportive family.
Absolutely.
But tell me, what was it like growing up in your household?
My mom, so I grew up with just my mom and my aunt for the most part, my mom's youngest sister. Mm-hmm. And I bring my aunt into the conversation. She's passed away some years ago, but I bring her into the conversation because her record collection was one of the big influences on my musical taste. So I was always into her albums. She had Cameo and the Bar-Kays and Earth, Wind and Fire, and anybody who had a lot of horns, she seemed to have in her record collection. And I always listened to her albums when she wasn't home until finally she got, tired of me digging through her stuff when she wasn't around and would just give me her discarded albums, the things that she was done listening to. She would just give them to me. And I'm talking at the time, I probably had a Winnie the Pooh record player,
Sure.
I was very young. And, and I'm listening to old Cameo when I was like 6 or 7 on repeat, because I probably only had 2 or 3 albums at my disposal at a time, Right. And when you're listening to something like that on repeat, you get to sort of obsess over detail,
Right.
And so I was probably obsessing over things that most 6-year-olds weren't obsessing over, like horn parts and specific horns, picking out trombone and trumpet, even if I didn't know or how to articulate those names. I knew that those sounds were different. You know what I mean? And
yes.
And really picking out vocal arrangements and vocal parts and closed hi-hats and open hi-hats and finger cymbals and, just all kinds of things that I was able to distinguish at a very young age because I was sitting in my room by myself listening to those things over and over and over. So I'm really grateful to my Aunt Rita for allowing me to have that kind of attention to detail. My mom, she's not a musician.
By the way, I know Aunt Rita must have been so proud of you.
I think so. Yeah. I think she was and probably still is wherever she is existing right now. My mom is not an artist or a musician, and I always joke that my mom claps on the 1 and the 3. And it was never fun to sit next to her at church when she was clapping so wildly on the 1 and the 3.
Enthusiastically.
Yes. Oh my
To your great
God.
embarrassment, right?
To my great embarrassment. But my mom always made sure that I was that I went to plays and concerts, and she exposed me to the arts and always made sure I was into it. So it's because of her that I was really into some of the more critical things that I was into, Nikki Giovanni and Sonia Sanchez, and reading those books at such a young age. My mom really made sure I was an avid reader, and it was because of her that I probably fell in love with the written word and lyrics as they are. The Last Poets was something we'd sit and listen to together, And my father is one of those guys who can walk into a room and just entertain everybody. Do you know those folks, Terry? Like he can sit at the piano and play just enough to make 3 chords sound like a whole album,
Right. But if you see a little crowd in the room, he's in the middle of it. Right.
Yep, exactly. And he actually has a really good singing voice. He's a talented, guy who just never pursued it,
right.
professionally. But his ear is one of those ears that, you can't teach. I always hear people who take ear training classes and that kind of thing. And I go, wow, my dad never took one ear training class in his life and probably has one of the best ears of anybody I know,
You, by the way, for people that haven't bought your record yet, you recorded Doo-Wop with Dad, a little pre-intro to one of your songs, and it just gave me life. It was so sweet.
Oh, thank you.
And I was just grinning when I was listening to it, and it's everything that you're talking about. He just sort of seemed like the life of the party, and his intonation was just spot on, and it was really fun to hear you sing with him.
Oh, thanks a lot, Terry. My dad's name is also Cy Smith, so I got to let people know he's the original Cy, and he won't let me forget it. And he grew up in Queens, New York, and used to sing on the street corners with his friends, and that type of singing, that doo-wop thing, is something he made me fall in love with. He used to take me to concerts at Westbury Music Fair in Long Island, and we'd see those old groups, they all had names like with a number or a color, the 5 this or the blue that. and he really made me fall in love with that kind of that style and that cadence, and he too helped me pick out different, not just notes, but Dad was real into texture and timbre and feel, and he helped me distinguish, Frankie Lyman from, a little Jimmy Scott, that kind of thing,
Right, sure, right.
So yeah, between those 3 grown-ups who helped raise me, my Aunt Rita and my mom and my dad, and then not to mention all of the other aunts and uncles, and my family was very much the living proverb, takes a village. That definitely was my family. But between those 3 individuals in particular, my love for the craft of music and songwriting and lyric and word all came together,
So
I'm really happy for that.
I can see why. You had some really beautiful nudging and guidance and encouragement from your family.
Thank you.
You're an only child, no brothers and sisters?
Only child to my mom. My dad has a bunch of kids, so I did end up meeting my siblings much later, and we're all really tight. But the way I grew up was as an only child.
Right. So you learned to entertain yourself
So solitary activities are no stranger to me. I was definitely the kid who had to learn how to entertain herself because my mom was not having it. Like, my mom definitely made sure that I knew how to, sort of be self-sufficient in that regard.
Right.
That was important. Yeah. So I had a tape recorder that I can't remember who gave me years ago, and I would make tapes of myself, not just singing. That's kind of an important distinguishment to make, I guess, because I didn't really consider myself a singer, Terry, until much later. But I used my voice to entertain myself. So sometimes that meant just sort of making up voiceovers and making little like news programs. It was always like, this is Cy Smith with the Sesame Street News or whatever I was doing.
Right.
And I had
coming at you from New York City.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I had a Casio PT-10, I think, and then eventually an SK-1, and I could make my own little theme songs on these. I could program up to 100 notes that I could loop around, and make it sound like a theme song. And I did that. I used those little keyboards to the extent of their usage.
Right.
And,
you took them to the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took them to the limit, child. And yeah, so it was really about entertaining myself with my voice. And I think that's probably why it's no surprise I got into voiceover work, you know, when I ended up moving to Los Angeles. All of anything I could do with my voice, I was probably experimenting with it at 7, 8, 9,
Right.
Yeah.
When you were that young, did you start? Was there a piano in the house? I know you play piano. Are you self-taught? Did you study did you study voice younger, or acting, or these things that came as you grew into a young woman?
There was an old piano at my grandparents' house in Tennessee where I would spend my summer. And I remember it so well because that low D stuck.
Yeah.
And,
I know the key. Yeah. I think I learned on that piano also.
I think we all did.
Right.
My granddad taught me how to play what he called the boogie woogie, just the little walking bass line on the black keys. He probably taught me that when I was like 3 or 4. And I took to making up songs around that walking bass line. And then, my mom, probably around 6 or 7, put me in these like piano lessons. We didn't have a piano at our home in DC, but she knew I wanted to learn. So she bought me this organ. It was a Bontempi. That was the name of the brand, this little organ. It probably had about 56 keys or something. I don't know. It wasn't a full board, but at the time it was enough. Now, the lessons that I was in, they weren't private lessons, and I didn't know how to articulate. There were like 12 people in the class, and we kind of rotated seeing the teacher, and it was once a week. And Terry, I knew it was whack. I didn't know how to articulate it, though. I was very young, but I was like, Mom, I want to take piano where it's just me and the teacher, and she's like, oh, you want private instruction? I'm like, yes, that's it. That's what I want, private instruction, And so eventually my mom got me a private teacher. That was probably 8 when I started.
Right. Oh, nice.
And that was with, his name was Mr. Roas, Saul Roas. He was from Argentina. And that was the beginning of my classical instruction. And we did eventually get a piano, probably when I was 9. And I studied classical piano for about 9 years, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, from that point all the way until I finished high school. Right. I didn't start like vocal sort of. Well, okay. My vocal story. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I'm very curious about your vocal story. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in private school in D.C., a little school called Naylor Road, and I tried out for choir in 3rd grade. And the teacher auditioning me, I don't remember exactly what she was asking me to do. Maybe she asked me to do the solfege scale, and I didn't know what she was talking about. This is when.
Yeah.
This is right. And so then she said, like The Sound of Music. Again, I didn't know what she was talking about. I don't think I had seen The Sound of Music. And at that point I was thrown off by the word solfege, and my whole self-esteem was shot because I didn't know the first thing she mentioned. And, this is when, when we talk about sort of cultural relevance and those things. So had she said The Wiz, I would have been in there.
Sure. I'm thinking if she wanted to hear a Jackson 5 tune, you'd be able to sing every single part.
I would have been able to. Exactly. Right. So my esteem was shot, and then I totally shied up and clammed up, and I didn't make it into choir in 3rd grade.
Oh, you did not?
And
okay.
I did not, because I wasn't prepared. And I was so angry with myself after that, because everybody seemed to have gotten into choir. I'm talking Lisa Hampton and Tasha and Shada and Jada.
They let Lisa Hampton in. What is wrong with those people?
And I knew those people couldn't sing, but
By the way, I love that you got angry instead of that you were crushed. That's so beautiful because
is it?
because now there's more to the story.
There's more to the story, exactly. But I was angry, and I told myself, I was never, ever going to wreck an audition again, So fast forward, it took me 2 or 3 years, maybe it took 2 years before I would audition for a choir again. 2 years and a new school.
Wow.
So, yeah. So at my new school, I had a wonderful music teacher in 5th grade named Mrs. Myers. And she encouraged me to try out for choir, which, I did. And then she said, you have a really good ear. You should try out for the Prince George's County Honors Choir. And then my ears perked up, like, oh, something special, and she was like, they only picked, 3 kids from each school. So, you should do this and it would be really special. And I, yeah, I want to be special. Heck yeah. What kid doesn't want to be special? So I tried out for PG Honors Choir and I made it. And that was amazing. It sort of started me on a track to do these choir things, which was amazing. I did elementary honors choir, middle school honors choir, high school honors choir, and then that sort of leads you to the all state. You try out for all state, and then you can try out for all Eastern, and then, which I did. I did all of those things by the time I got to high school. All state, all Eastern, and eventually, once you do your regional, once you make it to regional, then you get invitations to these national organizations that you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I made it into the U.S. I was invited to be in the U.S. National Chorus and toured Europe at 16.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. You meet all people from all over the country, and a lot of times I was the only Black girl. And definitely, the only Black soprano. I don't know why that is, but that seemed to be the case.
Yeah.
Always the only Black first soprano, or one of
did
two,
you feel,
or one of three.
Did you feel out of place, or were people inclusive?
Yeah, no, people were pretty inclusive, and I never felt out of place because the foundation I had come from always made me know that I belonged. You know what I mean?
Right. You were comfortable with yourself.
Exactly. And that came from just my household and the schools that I went to always made me feel, pretty secure. And yes. Yeah. It was important that, I think my teachers, especially in high school, Dr. Barbara Baker, she was very influential. Oh, and in middle school, Glenda Clay, who directed the Prince George's County Middle School Honors Choir, and Dr. Norris, and all of these directors that I had, they made us know that we belonged anywhere we were,
Well, you must be grateful for that.
Am I ever? I still speak with Dr. Baker to this day. Whenever I play in D.C., she tries to come to the show. And that always, I couldn't have done most of this without any of them.
I understand because I still have some very important relationships with a couple of teachers that I had, back in high school that I'm still in touch with. When I go back to Miami, I see them and we call each other on birthdays and
that's amazing.
And yeah, it's so I get that. And
it's so important, the role of the teacher and
absolutely.
I hate to hear about budgets being slashed and teachers being cut and music programs being cut because it starts so early for us.
Right.
It starts so early. It has to start so early, for most of us, you know what I mean? To get to where we want to be, we have to start doing this at 4 and 5 years old,
Oh, absolutely. So I want to fast forward because I would expect that some people, I'm sure a lot of people do know, but some of the listeners might not know that after high school, you ended up choosing Howard University as your college, where you graduated magna cum laude. Congratulations on that. And
HU? Thank you.
That's right. It eats you. And interestingly, you got a bachelor's of science in psychology with a minor in music therapy. How was that choice made?
Well, I went to high school in a program for science and technology. So I was pre-engineering in high school at Eleanor Roosevelt in Greenbelt, Maryland. And my mom has her master's in social work, and she was a practicing clinical social worker. And my mom got her master's from Howard also. Nice. So I would attend classes with my mom. My dad's master's is in sociology. I was very much in the social science of psychology and sociology, probably ingrained, at an early age. So psychology just seemed to come naturally for me. My mom and I would sit and watch psychological vignettes and discuss prognoses for, these fictitious patients and that kind of thing. All the time. Yeah.
Typical family evening, right? Scenario. Yeah.
Exactly.
Were you thinking that had you given thought to becoming a professional musician, or were you playing it safe, or were your passion for psychology and helping people forefront to your side, your minor of work, incorporating music therapy?
These are all very good questions, Terry. I think part of me was playing it safe. A part of me also really did truly love, and still, do love the discipline of psychology. But I was also intimidated by what I thought were the people trying out for the fine arts school at Howard. I was like, I could never compete against those kids. I knew the kids that went to Duke Ellington and Suitland School of the Arts in my area, specifically. And I had competed in classical vocal competitions in high school. So I knew what those kids were doing. And I was like, man, I can't compete against those kids. I was like, those kids are light years away from me. This is what I thought anyway. Even with Dr. Norris, who was there, who conducted the high school honors choir that I was in for 4 years, he was also the conductor at Howard. And even then, I still was like, I don't know, Dr. Norris. I don't know if I can compete with those kids. My expectations were just, so high. And I thought because I was pre-engineering in high school that I probably didn't have the training to audition. I probably could have auditioned, Terry. Yeah. I probably could have, and I probably would have made it into the School of Fine Arts. But at the time,
what's your takeaway on that? I mean, for the next generation of musicians that are listening to our show, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, I would say, don't underestimate yourself, the way I probably underestimated myself. That is definitely something I did. I definitely underestimated myself. I wouldn't change what I did, though. I'm glad that I matriculated the way that I did, and glad that I got my degree in psychology because I do really want to go back to school and get my PhD eventually. I don't know when that would ever happen, but I haven't given up on that dream.
You will, and I know I don't for a moment doubt that your studies at Howard in psychology have not helped you maneuver through having a career in the music business.
I don't doubt that either. I'm pretty sure that they did. So, but yeah, I would definitely say to folks, don't underestimate yourself. And if, and even if you have a love for one thing and a love for another thing, I mean, it's possible to do it all. It really is. Yeah. I think even though I still studied psychology, I was still very active in music all through college. I just, it was just not known to everybody in the music department.
Right. That was a big part of your life. You're reminding me of an experience that I had in studying karate, which I have been doing for the last over 20 years. And years back when it was time for me to train for my black belt, I was training really hard and I just did not feel like I was qualified, like that I knew enough,
Right.
that I was experienced enough. And, I was going 3 days a week and training on my own and all this stuff. I was, really have developed a deep passion and respect for it. And so the thing is, so I went to my sensei and I said, I don't really feel that I'm at black belt level. And I don't think I'm ready to take this test. And he just like pulled me aside and said, that's not for you to decide.
Oh.
He said,
Oh.
it's if I didn't think you were ready, I wouldn't be having you test. So
Right.
my responsibility as a sensei is to recognize when somebody's ready. And if I say that you're ready to test for black belt, it's not for you to tell me otherwise. I found that really interesting. And I took the test and passed. And it was one of the hardest things that I've done in my life. And that's relative because I know you and I have done a lot of very challenging things in our lives as artists and performers and people, that really kind of, that just shook me up because, in a good way, because I thought it was up to me to decide what I was ready for. And sometimes it isn't.
Right. Oh man, if we could all have a sensei,
Exactly. Right.
So tell us when we're ready,
Absolutely. But that didn't happen
amazing,
until I was in my, 40s,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I didn't
But that's amazing.
It really was. It was an incredible lesson for me in not second guessing myself. And, because I think you and I are, a lot alike in that we have a willingness to be fearless, to say yes to things that maybe we're not really quite sure about, but we know that we can, if we apply ourselves, we're going to figure it out. I see you do that every time you get on stage, or get in front of a mic, and it's something I aspire to as well. You just show up, and trust yourself.
You just show up.
Yeah. So that's something I admire in you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's, what we do requires that we trust our training and trust our practice, and walk out there and, trust that when you open your mouth, the thing that you have trained to practice, to come out will come out.
Yeah.
When you touch your guitar, that muscle memory that you've trained and practiced and worked so hard for will actually, your fingers will do what you have told them to do,
Right.
A big part of what we do is really about that trust. Absolutely.
So, I couldn't agree more. So in all of your traveling, because again, you've toured for years and worked with a lot of major artists. More recently, the past few years, many years, you've been traveling with Chris Bodie, and I don't remember how many dates a year you guys do, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's like Willie Nelson and B.B. King kind of schedule. You were just on the road. And so what I want to ask you about that is, how do you keep yourself healthy, physically, emotionally, spiritually, when you're traveling?
Yeah.
What have you figured out, and what have people taught you, or what have you figured out on your own about staying healthy when you travel so much?
Especially in the last couple of years, I've had to, because I did go through a health issue. It wasn't so much related to the road, but it was distressed by being on the road.
Right.
And I had to have I had a tumor on my uterus that was like the size of a grapefruit, and it had distended my abdomen and made me look like and feel like I was like 6 months pregnant,
Right. Yeah.
And I had to have,
I'm sure, painful.
Yes. It was very, very painful. It was very, very painful. And it had my body in complete distress. And my doctor was like, she recoiled when she touched me and was like, I don't even, immediately she was like, yeah, we got to have surgery. And then when my blood work came back, she said it was like an urgent call that she put out to me and my husband and anybody who could get in touch with me, because, you know, she was like, you know, your blood work shows that you shouldn't even be walking around right now. Like,
right. Yeah,
you know,
not surprised.
I don't know how you're doing shows. You're on the verge of having a stroke or a heart attack, whichever one comes first.
So they had to get you strong and healthy enough to even have surgery.
Yeah. I had to have a blood transfusion and iron pills and all kinds of stuff before I had the surgery. But after I had that surgery, I had to sort of rethink, like, how am I living? You know, because I need to be doing the best things by me to make sure that I can do the best work I can do, you know. So I decided to just cut out alcohol. I already didn't eat meat or anything. And I'm not saying that meat is bad for people. I'm just saying for me, I needed to change my diet.
Yeah, I understand that. I stopped eating meat when I was 15. So I understand that. And I respect anybody's choice that has other dietary. Yeah. Right.
I bought a bicycle and I ride my bicycle around LA. Just as
you
a
sure
matter
do. You go on like 20, 30 mile rides, which I always smile when I see your pictures, you know, doing that.
I do.
It's great.
I go on those rides, and I also just ride to the post office and ride to the bank, and just, you know, just as a means to, you know, I'm in my 40s, Terry, so it's like we have to, I don't have 20-year-old vocal cords anymore, you know. That's right. I have to make sure that I'm giving my body everything it needs to produce the sounds that I want to produce.
Yeah, and Sai, you know, it's so refreshing to hear you acknowledge that, because there are so many wonderful singers that don't make the adjustment when they hit their 40s and 50s and 60s and older to understand that physically things have to be done different to continue to sing and to keep your body, your tempo, and your instrument in a place where you're able to continue to do what you want to do. And it involves different lifestyle, different health, you know, exercise, diet, breathing, sleep, staying hydrated, but also different technique, like not being afraid to go back and take a few more lessons, you know, and learn some new techniques.
Oh my gosh, that's so important too. And then I've discovered an app to help me meditate. So I meditate daily for 10 minutes, and it's called Headspace. But
I was just going to ask you, Headspace, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure people can use whatever, but it's really just about giving myself at least 10 minutes every day of just complete and utter, you know, concentration on me, you know, and on space, because otherwise my head races, my mind races, you know, and so that 10 minutes, and I've only been doing this for the last, not even 2 years, but almost 2 years. Okay. But that's helped me out a lot, because with that practice, just like anything else, meditation takes practice. But now, you know, when I need a 2-minute break, I know how to give myself that because I've been practicing meditating. You know what, Terry? I listen to your sleep CD when I'm on the road.
Oh, you're still. It's still working for you. Good. It's
yes, it does.
I'm really glad to hear that, Sai. It is. It's a pretty remarkable project that I had the opportunity to collaborate with my cousin Glenn Wallman, who's a doctor. It's called Sleep Suite, SUITE, and it really it's a medical album. It's not a new age album. It's a record that's based on heartbeat. And the tempo that your heart beats and your body adjusts to it as the beat slows down. And I'm so happy that you're using it and that it helps, because we need help like that when we're traveling and always in different time zones and in hotels. And so good for you.
And, you know, especially now that I don't have like a glass of wine or two at the end of the night, you know, to wind down. I put that album on and let me tell you what I do. I put it on my phone at like the threshold of being able to hear those first few chimes.
Right.
Those
Right.
first
So
bells.
it's become
And I put
subliminal.
and then I put the phone under my pillow. And that's how,
Oh, great.
that's how I listen to it. As I fall asleep.
I do as well. I do it so that I can almost not hear it. So that I can lose myself in it and not defeat the purpose.
Yes, exactly.
When we were mixing that record, because it is music, we were joking about in mixing and mastering it that if we were actually doing it correctly, we would never be able to get through the end of the album mixing it, because in theory we should have fallen asleep. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No,
and it was tough to keep our eyes open during the mixing process.
Oh,
so
wow. It was good. So funny. That sounds like an SNL skit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
So,
but yeah, all of those things, and I warm up before every show, and I cool down after every show vocally. That's important.
So is your warm up maybe like about a 20-minute warm up and the same vocal exercises every time, or what is it? And what is your cooling down process, which so many people neglect to do?
My warm up it's not consistently the same thing. It's just, a couple of different exercises that I do, but usually I start off with the breathing exercise, and then like the bubbles, that most singers know. And then usually some sort of, arpeggio up, down, or scales up and down, or sirens. Those things. And then sometimes I pick a really funny riff that I like to do, and I'll just do that.
and you'll just run it. Yeah. And then do you sometimes just throw on a little cameo and sing along too? Or I know a lot of artists. I mean, I actually know a lot of artists who do, while they're putting on their, putting on their beat and getting their wardrobe and everything ready, that they're kind of singing sometimes to something that's uplifting.
Yeah, or like I'll pick one line of a song. Like I really like, it's really silly, but I really like Bone Thugs and Harmony. From their song, The Crossroads, when they say, and I'm going to miss everybody, and I'm going to miss everybody. I warm up on that, and then I just keep going up a half step. And I'm going to miss everybody, and I'm going to miss everybody, and I'm going to miss everybody.
Going to miss everybody, going to miss everybody.
Yeah.
Nice. That's great. Yeah.
I really like that one. And then my cool down is usually just a series of soft humming, like just after a show. And not too loudly, just really just allowing the muscle to slowly come back to normal, after being expanded for, an hour or two, or whatever my show performance time was. It's just allowing the muscle to slowly, it's like when you take a lap after running a track meet or something.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah. You allow your body to cool down. So now what about, are you able to do that? I mean, how does schedule allow that? Or sometimes are you just off the stage and, on the bus to the next city, or heading back to the airport or the party or whatever?
Yeah, because I do my own makeup every night. I warm up while I'm doing my makeup. So my time, in my dressing room by myself, is my sort of zen moment.
Your time.
That's when it's when I'm getting centered. So so while I'm doing my makeup is when I'm warming up, and my cool down is usually after a show. We have some minutes before we have to pack up and leave. But my cool down happens when I'm taking my dress off and changing back into my clothes, and it only takes 10 minutes or so. But I allow myself that time to.
That's great.
To come back to one, as it were,
Yeah.
And and I'm not really out in the space with everybody,
Right.
Socializing too much. I might go out and say hello to the public.
Sure.
maybe after I've changed into my regular clothes or whatever. But usually.
Your bandmates and tour family, they understand and respect your process.
Yeah, Pretty much. The ones who know, yes.
For anyone who cares, right?
Yeah, for
Where's Sai? I don't know.
Exactly.
It wasn't my turn to watch her.
Man.
I know.
Exactly.
So I can't not
Exactly.
ask you, because you're talking about makeup and hair and putting your clothes on. I have to talk to you about clothes and style, because you always look exquisite on stage.
Oh,
and
wow. Thank you.
And you always have something new on. And, so I know that you, I don't even know how you make that work. I mean, I know that, do you have a stylist, or they're just different designers that you've developed relationships with that want you to wear their clothes because it's everybody wins? Or how do you swing just, looking like a star every time you walk on stage in one beautiful gown after the next?
Thank you for one. Firstly, thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for that.
Yeah.
I have, there's a combination of things. I do have a friend who's a stylist named Hachi, and sometimes she will pull looks for me and pull gowns for me that I can wear and then return to the showroom that she's gotten them from.
Right.
And that always helps out a lot. That definitely makes it look like I have way more clothes in my closet than I do.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I have a couple of designer friends who have who designed or made outfits or gowns for me. Kilgore and Sweet, that's a husband and wife couple design team. They've made a couple of really gorgeous looks for me, including my wedding gown. And they're local in Los Angeles. And then another designer named Dina Burton, who went to Howard University with me. She's designed a couple of beautiful dresses and looks, jumpsuits and the like for me. And then everything else that you may have seen me in is probably part of my personal stash.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I change my hair, the gown looks different.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always think about, you just lugging, like 20 gowns around the world with you or wherever. Like, how do you pack when you head off to Japan or Korea or Brazil, or, when you're going far? Or are there road cases? Do you have wardrobe cases that your clothes go out? Okay.
I don't. Yeah, it's all packed away. I've just learned how to pack and make some of these gowns packable.
Right.
Or picking gowns that are packable is really the key. And then sometimes, like for New York, when I know we're going to be there for 28 nights in a row, I might just ship, a bunch of stuff there. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Right.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of the,
well, and that's not an exaggeration. Every year you do a 28-night consecutive run with Chris at the Blue Note.
That's not exaggeration.
Yeah.
56 shows in a row, because we do two shows a night.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and they're
crazy.
all sold out.
It's crazy. And I mean, back to self-care, like I can't, when we do those 28 nights, like I really don't even talk until 5 or 6 p.m. every night.
Right.
Like I wake up, work out, and then I start getting ready around 5 for the 8 o'clock show. And I probably don't speak to anyone until about 5:30. Like, and that might just be to get coffee from Dunkin' Donuts or somewhere.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the vocal rest thing for doing that amount of shows is, it's that type of discipline. I don't think I couldn't get through 56 shows without being disciplined like that.
I can't imagine. Even as a player, I would have to really adjust my schedule to not get carpal tunnel or fatigue or even like a mental, losing my, the ability to stay sharp and clear and present.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of focus.
It's a lot of focus. Yeah.
We have about 9 minutes left in the show, and there's a lot of other things I want to ask you, but I want to, I get to, I know the hour flies by. It's a completely different perception of time every time I have a conversation with an artist on this show, because I'm so mesmerized by the people that I speak with. It's wonderful. So before I get to my closing question, I just quickly, you had you had a record deal when you moved out here. And then, you moved to LA in 1997. You were signed to Hollywood Records in 1999. You released an album that charted number 79 on the hot R&B, or it was a single, hot R&B hip hop chart. Yeah. Gladly. You went on to release another album and 2 more singles. And then in 2001, you were dropped from Hollywood Records. And ironically, that same year that your label deal ended, you released a single called Welcome Back that received an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Music and Lyrics. Right. So a lot of things happen with that. What's your takeaway, having been both assigned and an independent recording artist? What's your perspective on the pros and cons? And
Hollywood released the single. They never released my whole album. They only released the single. And then, and so doing that amount of work and then not having it released is so frustrating. Because, what it goes, what it takes to create an entire body, an album. Right. So, they put the record on the shelf and then they said, we're going to release it, just sort of update it. So I went back and updated it, whatever that means, because kind of did some different mixes of the songs. And then they didn't release that one. And then I was like, oh my God, you guys are really jacking with my mind. This is not just something that we do for kicks. Like, this is my life that you're playing with. Right. So when they dropped me, I was jaded. I was angry. I was like, you guys are full of it. I don't even know why you guys had an urban department when you had no interest in urban music or urban people, for that matter. Like, just throw the whole thing away. But it took me about a year or 2 before I could get my wits about me and figure out what I wanted to do. And at the time, there was really no independent. There was no independent soul scene or soul music scene. We're talking like 2000, 2001. And Welcome Back, All My Soulmates was a song commissioned by the filmmaker for that particular montage on a movie called Dancing in September on HBO. They originally wanted to use like a Lauryn Hill song, but she was charging them an arm and a leg. So they called me, and I was like, heck yeah, I'll do it for that much. Let's go. Right. and I wrote
let's
song
get Lauryn Hill adjacent. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I wrote the song for that montage, and it went beautifully with it. And I got the Emmy nod, and that was my first time getting an opportunity to do something like that, and to get an Emmy nod right out the bat like that was out the gate was amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, it is.
And I wish I would get more opportunities to write for TV and film, because I think I could do just as good work, if not better. I just don't really get the opportunities. Yeah. Thank you. But to get that kind of nomination encouraged me to keep on doing what I was doing. So I put together like 5 songs that I had written and recorded in the last year or so, and put together an EP. And the EP was called One Like Me. And I was just selling them out the trunk of my car, Terry. Like, seriously, I would go down to Fridays down there in Baldwin Hills and be like, anybody want to buy a CD? And just, and I was and I was performing at a coffee shop called Lucy Florence here in LA, and it was building my own self-esteem back up, because people were coming to the shows and I was selling my CDs, and I was like, you know what, there is a scene for this. I just have to create it. I just have to further build the venue, and I just decided to release my own music, independently, and it all sort of worked out. But it was only because I didn't give up, Had I allowed that Hollywood situation to bum me out completely, I would have given up completely. And I'm just glad that I didn't.
Me too.
Because I was still sort of finding my voice at the time too. Both, artistically and really truly finding my voice. So I'm just glad that the situation didn't take me all the way out.
Yeah.
I've seen people.
So I need to interject.
By that. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, I could go on all day with you on this. We actually literally have 3 minutes left, and I've got 3 more questions, so they're going to be
okay.
Quick questions with quick answers.
Okay.
What does it mean? What does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally?
Making it means being able to do exactly what I want to do and pay my bills doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple for me.
Great.
I love being able to make music, and I love being able to pay my bills doing it. Like, that's success.
Amen. Can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. That's one. So just stay ready. Look the part all the time. It sounds silly, but, look the part. Right. Care about presentation, and never stop studying your craft. Period.
Great tips. Sai, my last question that I ask all of my guests is this.
Okay.
At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, man. I would tell my younger self that you are special just the way you are, and that you don't have to try to be anyone or anything else. That what you've got is special enough. Just work on that.
That's beautiful.
Oh,
where can everybody find your new album? Because I've just been wearing it out, and I encourage everybody else to do the same.
Thanks, Terry. Sometimes a Rose Will Grow in Concrete is available on all digital platforms. So iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Tidal. But purchases are so much better than streams for a girl like me.
And for a guy like me as well. Yeah.
Okay.
We've both gotten, millions of streams and barely get paid for it. So go buy it.
Absolutely.
Go spend $10 and buy this record.
Spend the $10. And if you're a physical collector, you can buy the CD from my online store at cyberspace.bigcartel.com.
Mm-hmm. We're going to put a link to your website.
Okay,
so,
cool.
And again, it's Sy Smith, SYSMITH.com.
That's it. That's it.
And thank you so much for spending the hour. In our last 20 seconds, what would you like to say to our listeners?
I just want to say thank you all for listening and taking the time to hear artists talk about art. It's important to just be heard, and we need all of your ears to support what we're doing. So thank you. That's all.
We both thank you. And Sy, it's been a real pleasure to spend an hour with you, which we seldom get to do, without 50 other people being around us. So thanks for sharing the hour.
I really appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. So thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Warmup.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on InnerTalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.